What's up, guys? Welcome back to Talking Nutrition, episode 56 today. I was just telling Kristine that we're almost a year in to the podcast. We got our anniversary episode coming up in just about 2 or 3 weeks, I think, which I feel like we've been doing well. The more I look into stuff, podcasts and those kind of things, I always hear most people don't make it past 5 episodes or whatever it is. I don't know. But we're still here, so we're going to keep going. Yeah, maybe it's not 5, but very low number I saw.
Yeah, and just comparing how we did things first episode to now.
Oh, 100%. It's super cringy.
Those first few episodes were
Yeah, no. It's funny too though. It's the same with content and everything, because you look back and you're fuck, I sound super awkward or whatever. But hey, we're always growing, and we still are, so it's cool.
Totally.
Now, with the summer, right? We're in the middle of summer. It's a bit of a weird time. A lot of people are still kind of waiting. So let's talk about that, because I think, with August, maybe September coming up, people going back to school, work, whatever, the trips are done. We're going back to a little bit more of a normal kind of season where we might be cutting, we might be bulking, whatever. What should we do in the meantime? Because I think people are still waiting for that moment. It's kind of okay, I've got summer and then I'll start again. I think we can still do some stuff, because it's all about getting a head start. Instead of not doing anything, we could already do at least something without being very strict or diligent with our nutrition, and kind of set yourself up for success, because we don't really want to figure things out if we're trying to get started with a cut, for example. So wanted to kind of tie this back into seasons of nutrition once again that we talked about recently, but the thing that we do kind of when we get someone started, But before we get into the episode, Kristine, you have any updates?
Yeah, so this is the last week of KA training, so that was kind of a bittersweet thing. I also now have a mental health professional on KA Nutrition. Her name is Anna Kennedy, and she is freaking fantastic. My clients love her. So what we've done is we've figured out, okay, any new clients that come on, they get a free discovery call with her. And then from there, they get significant discount rates that you really would be hard to find outside of, just in normal going to get therapy somewhere. Rates are typically pretty freaking high, especially if you don't have insurance. So we really tried to work on that and come up with a price where it wouldn't be adding too much, because clients are already paying for my nutrition coaching. So anyways, really, really excited about that. She's going to be doing some guest speaker stuff for the clients. And then we have a community space, so she's going to be in there as well. So that's really exciting. I'm excited for that. And then actually on Friday, I have a call with a potential assistant coach that I might be bringing on. I'm finally just handing over the reins a little bit, which is hard because, it's your business and you do things a certain way and you talk to people a certain way. And so it's nerve-wracking, but at the same time, it's necessary. That being said, has been a nutrition coach for a long time, and she's actually been my client for about 6 or so months right now, which I really like because she knows how I run things, how my coaching style, all of that. So really looking forward to just seeing if it works. If it doesn't, it is what it is. But that's potentially happening soon. What else? I feel like that's it right now.
Cool. So it's good. It's exciting to grow, right? It's cool to bring people in, and I think especially having someone on the mental health side of things, you know, to help people there is huge because, I mean, you and me get this all the time. It's like some check-ins almost turn into like a therapy session, which we can't really do anyway, but like
Big time.
people really share a lot of stuff, you know, which is great because they also need someone to talk to. But, you know, at some point we also need to kind of refer out. And how great is it just to have someone in your network? You know, it's super cool.
Yes, it's very awesome.
Yeah, that's super good. Cool. Yeah, I just got back from our trip, right? So last Tuesday evening we got back, had a great time. Other than my first day, like legit, we got home and I got so sick. That first day, it was just gone.
Really?
I had like crazy fever. My resting heart rate was like 85. I saw it in my Whoop data, right? So my respiratory rate was like way up. I had like crazy fever as well. So that first day I was just in bed. But then after that, it felt better. So we got to catch up. Got to toot again, see my friends, family. It was a great time. But then getting back into work now is a lot to catch up with, you know? It's been quite the building season this year so far. And, you know, Q3 is going to be exact same. Q4, fun fact, we're actually going to try and bring someone in as well. So we're kind of like working on that stuff now, right? Trying to get people on. Client-wise, we're pretty much capped pretty soon, which is really cool. So we'll be starting with a waiting list at some point, maybe this quarter, which is kind of nice. It's a good place to be in. And we could just focus on our clients, you know?
Yeah.
But again, you know, getting out of that vacation mode back into work takes a couple of days to kind of get into you know?
It's hard.
Like you were saying just now too, like it's like the longer you kind of take a break, the harder it gets. And I mean, it was like a week and a half, but I haven't had that much time off since, you know, 2020. So it's kind of like weird, you know? But okay.
Yeah.
We're back at it. So today's topic, right? So getting a head start for after summer, because I've had these chats with a bunch of people now in our group coaching program, in the free group, my one-on-one clients. Like, we have so many different things going on, and we simply cannot look at, you know, summer as the exact same as, like, let's say September or, you know, any month where most people are just kind of like working, doing their thing. Maybe we got some stuff during the weekends, but we are able to do like a cut, for example, or a bulk. So with your clients currently, Kristine, how do you got to go about that? Like, what do you do gotta like before going into summer, and what do you say going into it, kind of like setting them up with the right expectations, getting them ready for after summer, if that makes sense?
Well, I you know, ideally, like, I understand the concept of like, you know, summer's gonna look different and whatnot, but I do like them to be in a place where like these events and whatnot isn't something that throws them way off track, no matter what season it is. So we work on that throughout the whole coaching process, you know, from the very beginning to not have these seasons completely throw them off. So I you know, I feel like I don't necessarily like say things. It's just stuff that that's always like a work in progress for people and how they specifically handle situations. You know, if it's different situations, I guess, depending on what they're going into. So I wouldn't say that I have this thing that I just like say to people. I feel like it's so individual, and based on what events they have and how we're going to handle those events in, you know, per person, per client. That being said, like, for the Gen Pop that aren't my clients, if you're feeling off, you know, this summer was, you know, maybe you feel like you went a little overboard and you have these specific things that you want to get back on track. I would say, okay, what are these specific things you want to be doing by X time? So if it's like September or, August, September, you want to be doing X by that time. What are the small steps that we can start now so that you're at that point when you get there? So if it's like, I want to be meal prepping every single week, or I want to be doing, training whatever it is, whatever you want. Okay. How can we take those small steps down? So if you want to be meal prepping, okay, can we do that like once a week right now, or once every other week, or like just start to get that momentum going? That's what, I would recommend right now.
Yeah.
Or if you want to slow down on like the drinking or something, okay, where do you want to be in September? Where are you at now? Can we take like even like couple steps forward from that? If you're having 20 drinks a week, can we knock it down to like 15 and eventually get to that point in August and September?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's hard. It's going to depend to what people are at. I think the people who have been working with for a while, we're good. Like, they know, you know, like it's the same thing really as a weekend or evening out. Like anything that's like outside of the usual day-to-day, we get them ready for that. And it's a process, like you said. You try something, it maybe worked, awesome, maybe not. Okay, try something else. But it's an ongoing thing. What I notice now with people who, like, let's say started in June, for example, May, June, we're still trying to like get them ready for those moments. We're still kind of like just getting into that process. And then it's kind of like, okay, should I be tracking? Should I not be tracking? Do I take a break? We always plan anyway, for our phases so that they're not going to be dieting, at least during their trip, right? But those are all important things to work through. And this is maybe just generally for every client listening. Like, it is a different time, but you still got to show up, and there's going to be weeks where we're not going to be tracking. That's great. But we still want to at least check in and have a plan going into it. I think for the people just starting out, it's a little bit more difficult maybe to see that, because we do approach things differently. It's not just, hey, these are your macros, calories, whatever, your meal plan. And if you go on vacation and you can't follow it, well, that's up to you. Like, no, like these are things that we got to work on, But either way, I think there's always something we can do, right? And this is the same for the person starting out or the client or like anyone really. But there's always something we can do, because the habits that we're going to have to rely on long term, we always need them, And again, like you said, the meal prep and those kind of things, I think those are great. Because let's say you do want to start cutting in September, because I feel like that's a month where a lot of people are going to, or like August, September maybe. You kind of want to do a little bit of the pre-work already, which can be now. I think with the tracking, like, go ahead.
Yeah, because so a lot of people will potentially have, gone a little crazy during summer, right? Then it comes to September and they're like, oh my gosh, like now we have to do the extreme, right? So they go into this extreme diet, whatever it is, and then that's very short-lived. And it's very, very hard to go from like, okay, we're overeating, we're drinking a lot, blah, blah, to like keto, right? And then like you start that, right? So hard mentally, like mentally, physically, all of that. Whereas if you were to just start to take like small steps now, and it's okay if you overdid it this summer, like, but let's do something different this time. Instead of going to this extreme of doing a crazy diet because you felt like you overdid it, let's try something different and start to, implement these small changes and these small actions now. And then if you do want to go into some sort of, fat loss phase or whatever, now that transition is going to be so much more easier for you versus like overeating, drinking all the way to the point where now it's like one day to the next, you're going to just go into this like crazy diet, right? Obviously, if you don't know what to do with like a fat loss phase, a cut, like a proper more sustainable diet, I recommend a coach. But if that's not, financially doable for you, then I do recommend just starting with these small things, and you'll see changes with that alone. And then maybe you get to that September point and you're just like, oh man, like I really don't even feel like I need to do anything crazy. And you just continue with these habits that you've started. And that's going to be it's a longer period of time, but it's going to be so much more, it's going to be so much easier for you and not so stressful, both from like a mental and, physical standpoint.
Yeah. Because I think if you do it that way, one, you have some habits in place already that otherwise you would have had to build anyway. Then, so that almost like September maybe turns into like October, for example. Once, when you get to a point where you start losing weight, for example, actually seeing results. So there's that, you're building the habits.
Yeah.
You're also better off kind of like towards the end of the summer, because if you drink your water and you eat your fruits and veggies, for example, or you start getting more active, or you start eating more protein, if you do that now, you're already going to see some results, I think, even if that's just the only change, right? Mm-hmm. Even if it's just protein, for example. So you're going to be better off. You're going to be feeling more full as well. So all this stuff, it sounds very basic. We talk about it all the time, but like, it is the stuff that you need to work on anyway. You got results no matter what you're going to do.
And though doing it that way will then set, my webcam is having a seizure. It keeps like moving all over the place.
Yeah. So.
Those things that you start to implement now, you create, like Johan said, you're creating a habit, which those other diets don't. You're not creating any habits. That's why you stay in this like cycle, right? Where it's like summer goes crazy, I diet, and I gave my way back, and all of a sudden, then we're back into summer, and I'm here again. Summer goes crazy. Whereas if you just started to implement these small changes now, your next summer will more than likely be way easier for you, and you will not go off the rails like you feel like you do every summer, because you have these tools in place to keep you more disciplined. Still, you can loosen the grip a little bit, like that's fine. Like there's so many events and stuff that go on in the summer, but you can have these now habits and these tools in your back pocket to lean back on.
Yeah. I mean, I just got home from our trip. I got home lighter than when I left. And of course, I've been doing this a little bit longer than some other people, but like, I also came from somewhere where that wasn't the case, But it's just so nice to be able to get to have those skills to fall back on, like you have your habits, you are able to dial it in if you need to, right? I went on my trip, stopped tracking, didn't track anything, right? I just focused on protein, water, some steps, right? That was actually a little bit less than expected or planned. And, just focus on whole foods and stuff. And just enjoyed. We had a couple meals that were quite big with friends, and then the rest were just kind of chill. And it was totally doable, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually quite simple, but getting to that point is maybe not. But changing your habits and learning how to do that, and that's obviously the hard part. So I want people to know that it is a process and that you can do something at least, because, again, this summer, you could already see some progress. Next summer, like Kristine said, even more. Maybe a couple of years down the road, right? Maybe even just 1 year down the road, like you're going to be in a place where you don't have to worry and stress about, summer, because it's not completely like this all or nothing thing.
Right.
Because again, like it is a different scenario. Totally, right? Like I don't want people to be cutting when they're going on vacation in Spain or something. And we don't. Right. Like we planned for that. But of course, we also don't want that to be like a reason to kind of like, well, okay, no rules, whatever. And then, before you know it, it's a couple of weeks later, you're like up 5-10 kilos, whatever. It happens really quickly. And
yeah, which I think is a kind of good segue into how we go about things when bringing on a client, because this is what we're setting the client up for down the road. So we wanted to just talk a little bit about what we do when we bring a client on, like those first initial, that, whatever, few months. So when someone applies to my coaching, I am very, very open and transparent right off the bat about what my coaching looks like, because there's no quick fixes, nothing like that here. I bring a client on and we work on the fundamentals, we work on the foundation, building a solid foundation before anything. And it's like that with anyone. Even if someone comes to me and they've already got these things in place, I will still have them do that for like a month or so.
Yeah,
because
show me,
I want it. Show me first of all. And secondly, there's things that I've had people who have been very dialed in that first month, there's things that pop up for them where they maybe didn't realize they were like not handling well, I guess. Or if there's like an all or nothing mindset, or like, things like that popping up, and they're like, wow, like this has really opened up my eyes. And I'm like, and this is why we spend time doing this first before we even think about going into like any sort of fat loss phase. And not everyone is here for a fat loss phase. Like there are people just that want to work on the foundations or the fundamentals, and we do that. But I do that with everyone, no matter what. And I tell people that right off the bat. I'm like, we are working on the basics. We're working on getting you in a routine, depending on what your schedule looks like, having you, have a better understanding and how to handle events and situations that pop up, or like really stressful weeks or whatever that is. I want you to be equipped with the tools to be able to handle those situations down the road when we are not together. It is not just about right now. Like if you want this to be a lifelong thing and lifelong change and success, these are the things that we have to get in place first. And I care about my clients. Like if they want to lose fat right now and they're not ready to lose fat right now, I'm not going to put them into a fat loss phase if they have a bunch of other things to focus on first. So, I always get that right out on the table and let them know, like, this is what this looks like. If this isn't for you, like, that's okay. I understand. I'm not going to be the coach for everyone, but just setting those expectations right from the top is what I do. And we lay the foundation first, period.
Yeah, it has to happen. Like we got to do that pre-work, and there's often so many things. So again, like I keep mentioning fat loss, but that's just because most people have those goals with us as well. But like either way, like we're not going to start you there, right? Some people I've started at like almost like a maintenance minus kind of, because there are people who can benefit from losing weight ASAP kind of, if we're looking at 50 plus pounds, right? We do want to kind of like...
You focus on the basics, like
exactly.
Food quality, movement, and not even in that mindset of fat loss yet.
Yeah.
And yes, you could, it can be a byproduct of what you're doing, but it's still, they don't have those tools in place, and maybe that's why they are there
for sure
where they are now. So those basics are what are going to create that success there, even if we're not focusing on fat loss.
For sure. Because this is what I tell them too. Like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And this is kind of like one exception I'll make. We'll put them a little bit lower, see how they respond. And then I'm going to say, hey, either way, like whatever happens, these are your targets for now. And we're not going to change anything until we are consistently there. We're hitting our proteins, food quality, and those kind of things. A lot of times you see things are moving, right? And often for quite a while. And then it's like, okay, cool. Like we're in a good spot. Are we ready? Yes. Okay. Then we will get into planning. But this is also something we have set up in kind of like our order of, the onboarding process, which is really 6 weeks. After that food diary, right, we want to see where they're at, food quality, food intake, just overall amounts, seeing what they're struggling with. But after the foundations, right, making sure that they actually understand nutrition, because as well, there's so much information out there and that's so confusing for people. Like, when I educate them, make sure like, hey, we're able to actually be flexible with our nutrition, right? We apply that 80-20 rule. We see how we do. We start planning, right, the full day of eating so that I always have something to fall back on. And then we also create their periodization plan. Like that's, I think, week 4 now, because we move things around a little bit. But week 4, then we start building out their plan, because then we also kind of know, okay, these are still some things we got to work on. These are some things we could already get into. And then we have special scenarios, a little bit of supplementation too. But again, it's a process, right? That's a 6-week process. Usually after 4 weeks, I'd say for the majority of the people, we can start cutting. But there are people where we don't, like I really want you to first hit your targets, because if we're super inconsistent and we're all over the place for whatever reason that is, we got to work on that, because we're not going to be able to adjust from that inconsistent place. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
This is also something we can already get into right now or over summer, is working on some of those basics, making sure that maybe some of that stuff is already covered. Hey, if you already know for yourself, I'd like to start cutting or I'd like to start bulking or whatever it is after summer, you're probably not going to have like special, evenings out and those kind of things, like special scenarios every single day. Maybe just track your food like a couple days a week, or maybe just protein, or try to already work towards that, like eat some more whole foods. Like all that stuff needs to be worked on anyway. And that's what we do with everyone as well. And I remember having a talk with someone in the past. They're like, and this is before I started bringing this up, like radish to pet, we all learn. But he's like, week 3, I think it was, he's like, yeah, I'm not very happy with the, the fact that I haven't lost any body fat yet. I was like, well, okay. 3 weeks in, like, this is not some lose weight quickly kind of thing. You know what I mean? This is not something where, hey, we sign up and we say, okay, cool, you want to lose weight? Let's jump into a 2,000 calorie diet or something,
Yeah, that's why I'm so matter of fact, like right off the top.
Yeah,
like I literally say to them like this: this is not a quick fix program. We will focus on fat loss when the time is right. But I say anywhere from like, I have it written in the thing.
Yeah.
Anywhere from like 6 to 10 weeks, maybe longer, is exactly what I have written before we move into that next phase. So yeah, really, like they need to really understand, the expectation and what they're coming into. I think that's so important.
Yeah, because I mean, with anyone really, because like when we did the giveaway last month, and we talked to a bunch of people, I really got a lot of stories from people where it was quite worrying, right? Like they've tried multiple programs and coaches and those kind of things, and then it's like, well, it was just the targets, and I got put on 1,200 calories, but they never got to work through stuff. They never got to first actually build that foundation.
Yeah.
They never even like knew about food choices or, anything like that, because they were just supposed to follow calories and that was it. Some people, were just told to try again if they didn't hit their targets, but there was never kind of like that figuring out why they were not able to. And it ended up being a lot of kind of like the mindset side of things that now all of a sudden we do get to work through. And now that you see results because of that, like you want to take your time, and I think this is something to remember too, that if we have been struggling for multiple years, you're not going to see a whole lot in a couple of weeks, right? We can get you.
Well, you're not going to see, like I say this to clients all the time, like how long have you actually been doing this?
Yeah.
And like the other guy, like you bring awareness around it, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, how long have you been emotionally eating or overeating? And one of my clients said my whole life. And I said, okay, this isn't going to be undone in 12 weeks. Like that's the facts. It can improve. Yes. Like we're working on improving that over the 12 weeks. But it's not just going to be fixed in that period of time. And it is quite literally human nature to fall back into old habits. But to have that awareness, say, okay, have the awareness, and then this is where those tools and habits come into play, right? You've built the habits. It's normal to fall back into them sometimes, but now you're like, okay, like this has happened. I have identified like I'm falling back into these old habits. Now I have these tools in my back pocket to get me back onto, a more successful path, and that whether that's small action or big action, whatever. So yeah, it's so important to have these habits in place. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah, I always say there's a diet before the diet and there's a diet after the diet.
Mm-hmm.
Without the diet before the diet, your results are going to suck. And without the diet after the diet, it's not going to last. Because you also need to maintain it still. You got to get ready, right? You can't just jump in. I mean, some people can see some results, but like, usually it's not going to last. So you want to make sure that you're actually ready. And this is where your coach can help you, because as human beings, we're probably going to tell ourselves like, oh, no, I'm good to go kind of thing. Yeah. Then your coach might be like, I don't think so. Not yet, maybe. Or maybe they agree and that's all great. We want to make sure that you're actually good to go. That being said, let's try to stick to our 30-minute episode. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us, Kristine, this week?
No, I think that's it.
Do you have any plans the rest of the summer?
Oh, we're going to Colorado in August. We're going to Crested Butte for like our honeymoon. And the first night we're staying in a yurt. Do you know what a yurt is?
No.
It's like this white... It's like a glamping experience where it's like big white like tent. So we're staying in one of those the first nights, and then we got a really, really cute Airbnb in Crested Butte that doesn't have a TV or anything, and like it's just like surrounded by mountains, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to have coffee on the patio.
That sounds great. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
nice one.
Yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm gonna go back to catching up on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you again. Well, we'll catch up in a couple of weeks, Kristine. And to the listener, I'll talk to you next week.